Done is better than perfect. Hey, how you doing? Welcome to Garden Fork Radio. It's Eclectic DIY. It's me and my friends talking about what we hope you think are interesting things. Today, it's a solo show. It's me, Eric. I've got 3 things to talk about, kind of topically, and then I hope to have some of my co-hosts on going forward through the month to talk about them a little bit more in depth. So, welcome. Let's just start off at the get-go. The Labradors, they get fed in a half an hour. Dinner time's at 5 o'clock. And if you hear some thumping, I have 2 dog beds on either side of my computer desk here. Andy is a tail thumper, and they're going to try and get me to stop recording and go feed them. So we'll see how successful that is, right? All right, here we go. I actually have a list. This, Nicole would be proud of me. Where did the list go? Brain. Okay. Oh, here we go. All right. First off, we got new insulation in the little house up in the woods. If this is your first time here, we have a little weekend house. We live in New York City during the week. It is a house was built in 1950, wood clapboard, center chimney colonial. And the insulation that was in the house, I think the insulation guys called it cedar wool or cedar. It's super thin. It's barely anything, like a little foil backing and a little bit of what looks like compressed sawdust. And oil heat is going through the roof as far as expense goes. And I'm like, And a buddy of mine was like, hey, the local power company is giving a rebate if you get your house insulated. Here's a company to call, get for more information. So we had a blow door test done, and then I got 2 different estimates on the installation costs. They were actually about $2,000 apart, which was interesting. But the bulk of the installation cost was covered by the electrical company, which I thought was amazing. So finally hit the green light on that. And just a couple of takeaways on that. I was obsessed. I still am obsessed about spray foam. I bought a pistol grip spray foam dispenser applicator. You put the regular, well, they're kind of taller cans, the kind of shake up. So I got that. And of course, I shot some video with it. But anyway, I wanted the attic spray foamed because when a friend of mine had it spray foamed, and it made a world of difference. And so the estimator guy comes over. His name was Jeff. And he, there's a little square hole that you pop up to go take a look at you cannot walk in my attic. You have to crawl around your hands and knees. And he's like, look, are you going to use this for storage? I said, no. He said, are you going to try and use this as a room? I'm like, no. He goes, then you don't need the spray foam. He said, spray foam is 6 to 8 times the cost of cellulose blown-in insulation. It does do a little bit better job sealing, but he says you're off-gassing from the spray foam. The cellulose, you're not doing that. The cellulose we're going to put in, it looked like 1.5 feet or 2 foot. It's R40. And he said, and it's much cheaper, and it's easier. And I'm like, okay. So he shaved, I think it was going to be like $5,000 or $6,000 to spray foam the attic, and to cellulose it was $1,000 maybe. Anyway, that was a big takeaway from the installation process. The other thing a couple of things to think about is the crew that came did not like dogs, and I wish somebody would have told me that, or I should have asked the estimator guy, look, I have 2 dogs. Is that going to be a problem for the crew? Because I suddenly had to find a place for my dogs, which was, I could just call one of my neighbors and say, could you take my dogs for the day? But it would have been handy to know that ahead of time. The other thing is they took off the clapboard. They take the siding off your house to blow the insulation in from the outside. And it looks like shredded newspaper. And they put a 2.5-inch hole, maybe a 3-inch hole in two different kind of in the bottom and the midpoint of each wall of your house, and they blow in the insulation. So they're pulling off. I have cedar clapboard siding that's painted white, and this stuff costs a fortune. I resided different parts, and the way they pulled it off and the way they put it back on, they're like, "Oh, this won't be a problem." And I'm like, "Well, yes, it is a problem." They were in the middle of the job when it happened, and I'm like, I just kind of threw my hands up. But had I known ahead of time just how they were going to, I'll talk about this in the full podcast, but had I known how they're going to pull those nails out and pull my cedar off, I would have taken the cedar off myself, and I could have put it on a lot more cleaner. I had to be at work. I couldn't be there while it was going on, blah, blah, blah. But you live and learn. So yeah, insulation. So now the insulation is in. They insulated the ceiling of the basement, and they did the outer walls, and they did the attic. And also another thing to think about is if you have any holes in your walls, like maybe you didn't patch a wall and, oh yeah, you dropped your claw hammer through the wall or something, or I don't know. There's a couple holes in my walls because I opened stuff up to run wire and I left it open. The cellulose will blow through that and into your house. And the crew did a good walkthrough inspection, but the two holes that I had were inside of kitchen cabinets, and they didn't open the kitchen cabinets to look. So I had cellulose all over my pots and pans and boxes of pasta and stuff like that. So just thinking something to think about there. Hey, real quick, if you would like to help support the show, one way is to use the Amazon link for Garden Fork. I said that backwards. The Garden Fork Amazon link. It's in the show notes here. It's amazon.com/shop/gardenfork. If you use that link, it'll take you to our shopping page. We can see the cool tools I use, cookbooks. I have several lists there of stuff. But also, by visiting that page, then doing all your shopping, we get a finder's fee for whatever you shop for that day. That's really helpful. Amazon.com/shop/gardenfork. Thank you. Then we had another big upgrade to what I call the little house. It's this little 2-bedroom colonial in the woods of Northwest Connecticut. We also got new windows. I've talked about this before. We don't take out loans to do anything. We always save our money and plan. And when we have the money, we hit the go button. And during the pandemic, I was researching windows, and I got estimates from the big window companies that work through the Blue Store and the Orange Store. Super nice people that came out. But just the quality of the windows, I'm like, their big seller is the vinyl window. It's vinyl on the inside and the outside. And it's a wood house. It's not a great house, but I don't really. It's just the vinyl. And I thought, I was a little stunned by the price of the window and the installation. And I'm like, okay, so there's the window, they're going to subcontract a crew to do this, and then they're making money on the top of this as well. I would rather spend that same amount of money and hire one of my local carpenter neighbors to do the job. So again, I've nothing against the two estimators that came up from the big stores. They were really nice. They knew a lot about what they were great. Got along really well. And I called my carpenter neighbor and I said, we want to put in new windows. He goes, "Oh, well, I have a good friend of mine that works at X lumber supply company who is a dealer for Andersen Windows. I'll call him and we'll come up to your house and measure all the windows and he'll give you an estimate." And we went down to the lumber supply, and he has a whole display of a bunch of different windows, and he was just straight with us about it. And we picked out a window that is fiberglass on the outside, that's tinted white in the fiberglass, and then pre-stained wood on the inside. And that was a little more expensive, but for me to stain raw wood on 17 windows, that sounds like a lot. We have this little house and there's 17 windows, or maybe it's 16 windows. Anyway, so I rather spend that money on a higher quality window and hire my neighbor to do the job, because that keeps a bunch of the money very local, and we're getting a much better window product out of it. You probably have a carpenter in your town or your neighborhood that can do this. There are some skills involved, but if they're a carpenter, then they have those skills. The other thing that I asked them to do was to use PVC white trim on the outsides, because literally my windowsills and the brick mold, which is the side trim on the windows, was just rotting off at this point. It's been there for 70 years. So yeah, it might be time. So think about that. Order your windows from a local lumber supply, and talk to your carpenter neighbors first. They probably have preferred suppliers they deal with. And then it took almost a year to get the windows because of the pandemic, but they put them in, and the insulation combined with the windows, the furnace does not turn on every 10 minutes like it used to. This is now early December. So I'm curious to see what the usage will be. I don't know if it's because I have a preconceived notion in my head, but the house feels warmer. Is that just my brain? Is that the frontal lobe? I don't know. It's not the amygdala. It's not the lizard brain. What other part of brain do I have? Anyway, so that was pretty cool. We'll talk about that more. Maybe Will from the Weekend Homestead can come on and talk about that, because I'm sure he has had some experience with Windows as well. The last thing that I want to talk about for the show here, we're going to have a fourth thing, which I'll talk about on the after show for patrons. If you're interested in becoming a patron, there's information in the show notes here about that. But I am moving back to wearing a mask while traveling. I had to travel some recently, and when I came back, I thought I might have COVID. I think what I really had was that is it called RSV, CSV? It affects children more. But I had a headache and a cough and kind of lung soreness for at least 2 weeks. And I still have a little bit of a dry cough. And New York City, I don't know about other cities and federal guidelines, but New York City is advising people to wear masks even indoors now. So, and the airports are jammed. I guess I don't know if it's still a touchy subject. We're science-based here at Garden Fork. So yeah, back to wearing a mask. The irony is, I think you're safer on an airplane than you are in the airport. The airports are just crawling with people, and all the flights are full. I can't blame them for wanting them full because, jet fuel is expensive, So think about that. People may look at you and go, why are you wearing a mask? I'm quadruple vaccinated at this point, and I thought, I'll be fine. I know the mask is not comfortable for me, but I don't need 2 weeks of headaches and chest pain and then a month of a cough just because I went to go visit my sister, So there you go. So, a couple of positive things there. I think the new mask thing is a positive thing. I want everyone to be safe. Let me know your thoughts. It's radio@gardenfork.tv, okay? radio@gardenfork.tv. Go out and do cool stuff. Make it a great day. I'll see you. Garden Fork Radio is produced by Garden Fork Media LLC in Brooklyn, New York. Our producer is Sean O'Neill. If you need an amazing podcast producer, visit Sean's site, SeanInBrooklyn.com. That's Sean, SEAN, in Brooklyn.com. Our executive producer is Jimmy Goose. For more information about Jimmy and the custom hollow books he makes, visit hollowbooks.com. The music in the show is licensed from audioblocks.com and uniquetracks.com.